The overlap between chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, and Sjogren syndrome and your long-term disability claim. Now, any one of these diseases in and of themselves can cause a disability that might result in a disability insurance claim if you have a policy or plan. There's anecdotal evidence that Sjogren syndrome can overlap with chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia. Now, what's the relationship between these two? Well, let's first talk about Sjogren's disease. Sjogren will attack the tissue in the glands that will produce moisture, and the primary symptoms are dry eyes and mouth. That can lead to oral infections, ulcers, and difficulty swallowing. It's characterized by chronic fatigue and inflammation in your joints, in your muscles, in your organs, and other parts of your body. Now, this fatigue and pain can overlap with the symptoms of fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue. There is a lot of difficulty in diagnosing these diseases. There's no gold standard test for any of these diseases, and it's a matter of elimination. It's thought to be immunologically based, and that can be hard to sort of winnow out. So as a result, it's not uncommon for a physician to conduct an examination of the eyes and the mouth, perform blood tests, and even do a biopsy of your salivary gland to make a diagnosis of Sjogren's. Now, one of the key things that you can do to help you in your case, particularly to help them make a correct diagnosis, is to give a complete and accurate history of your symptoms and explain how those symptoms impact your functionality. You also need to get treatment. Your disability policy or plan requires that you get medical treatment that's appropriate by a specialist and that's reasonable. Now, non-medical treatment is not going to be acceptable. In the case of Sjogren's, the prescribed treatment is going to, in part, depend on the specific part of your body that's involved and how severe your symptoms are. Now, you may want to make sure that if you are having problems with pain and inflammation, that you're getting the appropriate treatment and you're following that plan. Carriers are going to disregard the dry eyes and the mouth, but they should be paying attention to the pain and fatigue. Now, severe inflammation is going to be treated with steroid medication. And what's important is that in your medical records, we're documenting not only the medication you're getting, but the treatment and how it's impacting your functionality. Now, if there's any off-label use medication that's being prescribed, doctors, obviously want to help you with your symptoms, but carriers don't like this off-label use. You have the burden of proof. You have to prove that you meet the applicable standard of disability. So you have to be prepared to document an objective basis for the diagnoses, an objective basis for the restrictions and limitations that have been assigned, and that may require you to have a functional capacity evaluation or even a cardiac pulmonary exercise test. You may even want to get your own IME. And ultimately, you have to establish a causal relationship between those restrictions and limitations and your inability to perform your own or any occupation. Now, if your disability carrier plan has terminated your benefits or you hear noises about that, time to contact an experienced ERISA disability attorney such as myself, who regularly handles these types of claims across the United States. Call me today at 727-894-3188 for a complimentary consultation.